I've got another story time for you, but this time it's going to be the first episode, is that what you call it, or installment, whatever, of my life story. And I know that I've done this before. Those who have been with me from the beginning that's been about over 3.5 years. Thank you. If you've been with me from the beginning, thank you. But you remember that I did tell bits and pieces of my life, but I was really, really insecure back then. I feel more secure now in YouTube. You guys have made me feel really, really welcome. And so I think I left out a lot of details. And besides, those of you who just have joined me, probably, so many videos ago, I doubt that you have even looked at any of those. So, I am going to start from my birth, which was very, just like my name, out of the box. Okay, you know how a normal birth is. Well, okay, so what happened was, my parents were in the Army. Well, my dad was in the Army. And so my mom was going to deliver, I don't know if it was Maryland or, well, I think that they lived on the Mason-Dixon line. That was the line that was between the North and the South during the Civil War. And so I think that half of their house was in Pennsylvania and half was in Maryland, or 2 different states. I forget which ones. But anyway, so I was born in Pennsylvania, Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, but I only lived there 3 months, so don't ask me about Pennsylvania. I don't know anything. So what happened was, it was a Sunday morning, and my mom woke up and made breakfast for my dad, and then she thought she had labor pains, and I was her first, so she wasn't knowing exactly what to expect. So they went to the hospital, the Army hospital, and the doctor, they what is it called, registered her into a room, or put her into a room, and the doctor came to look at her, examine her, and he said, oh, this baby won't come until tomorrow. And then he left to go play golf or something because it was Sunday. So my mom then was just relaxing, waiting, and then the nurse brought in papers for her to sign, and the nurse left. When my mother sat up to sign the papers, my dad was in the room right with her, she sat up to sign the papers, my foot stuck out. And my dad saw my foot stick out, and he turned white as a sheet, and he ran out to the nurse's station and said, the baby's coming, we're going to have a baby. And they said, yes, we know you're going to have a baby. And he said, it's coming. And so anyway, that was my entrance to the world. Then they proceeded to bring me out feet first. So you see, I started out of the box. So then I had a very nice family. I was born into a wonderful, wonderful, secure family. My parents, good people. Thank you, God, for giving me such wonderful people. A good brother, a good sister. I'm the oldest, but anyway, I lived in a little fantasy world of, I loved movies. Even now, I love movies, and I'm a very visual person. And so I take in, when I watch a movie, I love it, and I kind of live it in a way, I don't know how to explain it. Some people just watch a movie and it doesn't affect them. Well, anyway, one of the movies that I loved with all of my heart, and I saw it many times, was called The Trouble with Angels, with Haley Mills. And so it's about a girl she comes from a very dysfunctional family, and she's really messed up. She's about 14 years old, as I was, when you're going to hear the next thing that happened to me. And she's sent to a boarding school because she lived with her uncle who didn't want her. And so she goes there, and she's into troublemaking, okay? And so, but it's in a very, very innocent kind of way. way back in the olden days, it's not like it is now, but way back in the olden days, they would smoke a cigarette and that would be a, you know, troublemaking thing, or they would, and it was a boarding school that was run by nuns, okay? So, and then they would do other things that were, you know, got them into trouble and things like that, but I loved this movie. So, when I was 13, almost 14, my parents put me in boarding school, but not because they wanted to get rid of me, but because it was a family tradition. And so I was so excited because I was gonna live my dream, my movie, right? So I go there and I'm the biggest nerd. I just was so awkward, just very, very, very awkward, you know. I didn't fit in. This was the days of the hippies, because I was born in 1956, and by the time I went to boarding school, I think it was 1970, and then it turned 71. And so when I went there, it was just the rebellious time. I guess it still is, but that's when it started, right? All the rebellion. And everybody was, all right, so the first year we get there, it was everybody wore uniforms, and I had been so excited to get my uniform and everything. Well, by the time that year finished, the kids had rebelled so much. It was an all-girls school. It was about 400 kids. And the kids had rebelled so much that they had done a mutiny or whatever it is, and we were allowed to wear jeans. We were allowed to just dress anyway. There was almost no rules. Okay, so I get there and I join, I hang out with a bunch of girls who are just like me, very, very innocent. But my roommate, one of my roommates, I had two, one very innocent and the other would get into trouble. Well, guess who I was more attracted to, but I was on the outside. I wasn't accepted into that group, right? Because I was too goody-goody. So she was already doing things like smoking pot and smoking cigarettes and everything. And I forget how it happened, but I convinced her to teach me how to smoke cigarettes. And so we go out into the woods, because this is up in Connecticut. My family lived in Florida and I was sent up to Connecticut. And we go up to Connecticut, we go out into the woods, and you know, she taught me how to smoke a cigarette. And it made me so dizzy. I don't know. And this is, I'm not endorsing cigarettes. I'm not endorsing drugs. I'm just telling you my story. And this is a story about how, in the end, thank God I got off of drugs. But this is, as you see from the title, this is how it began. Okay, so then next, you know, I convinced her to teach me how to smoke pot, and I loved it. But this is not an endorsement. I don't do drugs now. I don't do pot. I don't do anything else. But I loved it because it made me hallucinate. There must have been something in the pot besides just the pot, because I don't know if regular pot has you hallucinate. But anyway, I wanted more. And so then I convinced her to teach me how to do LSD. And I'm telling you, at first it was fun, but then it was scary. It was really, really scary. I had what is called a bad trip. And I saw I was out of my mind. Thank God I've never had a reoccurrence. So what is it called? A flashback. I've never had a flashback, but it was not fun. And it scared me enough. Now, I started the drugs when I was 14, But by the time I was 16, that's when I had the bad trip. And I'm telling you, if you can, I mean, everybody lives their own life, makes their own decisions, but I'm encouraging you, don't go there, because as fun as it was to begin with, it ended up really bad. And it scared me enough that I stopped. And I'm very grateful that I never tried anything that was hardcore drugs. The worst I did was LSD, or it's also called acid, or and I did mescaline, which I think is mushrooms, and marijuana, and drinking. But I'm going to tell that story next time, because with that story I got suspended from school. I mean, I had an episode. But anyway, so I know it's fun to try things, and that's the kind of person I was. But you know what? It didn't turn out good. It really didn't. So, and I'm just grateful that I got off of drugs before it got really serious. So that is my little story time of how I got into drugs and how I stopped. And next time I am going to tell you how I got suspended from school. Okay, bye.